Hello. All right. Almost. All right. So we're just letting everybody get logged in. For shoulder impingement. And go over what is shoulder impingement. um, Ways you can tell if you have it or not. Um, how to fix it. I have a model here too, so it'd be a good visual for us. For me to explain for you guys to understand a little bit better. Flex biceps. Cool. All right, so I think we're coming up on our time here. So let's see. All right, so this is to cover the shoulder impingement syndrome. So people might have wrist pain, elbow pain, shoulder pain right in here, possibly some neck pain, a lot of pain. And so right now I'm just going to go over, just kind of how it happens, why you feel these kinds of things. So let's just kind of get right into it. So this is my model here. As you can see, I put in some uh, muscles that are relevant to our conversation here. So this is the biceps right in here. Okay, this is the the back part right in here. A lot of times, if you're a patient of mine, I'll poke right in here to kind of see where you're at with that. And sometimes you can actually see some inflammation in there just because of what it's trying to do. So the action of these muscles here is to bring your arm back this way, and it's to help you like throwing, overhead movements, things like that. We also have this muscle right in here. As you can see, there's a little bit of a hole right in here. Okay, and then that's going to be important for later. And then there's this muscle in here. If you can see through the rib cage, there's this muscle right in here. It's called the subscapularis. Okay, if you break that down, it's under the scapula, so it kind of makes sense. This is the scapula here. So you have the two muscles, the 4 or 5 muscles here that are surrounding the scapula, and then you have your biceps. Okay, these are very important. I actually forgot to put in the pectoralis right here. So that muscle is really important as well. It's right in the front here, and the tendon is actually right in here. So this juncture right in here is very problematic for people who have uh, shoulder impingement. Okay, and so the reason is if you notice this muscle in here, subscapularis, the tendon of it actually attaches right in here to the arm. It's not even to the scapula or anything else. It's the arm, humerus rather. And so when that is super tight, which a lot of the times that's what happens with people who do a lot of this motion. So people who work at restaurants or people who stir a lot, cooks, people who bake a lot, who need to stir a lot of those different pastries that you like to make. Um, you go like this a lot, and it wrecks your arm, right? Because what you're doing is you're cranking the tension on this muscle right in here, okay? And because it is attached to the arm in the front right here, what it does is it turns your arm inward, okay? And then because of how the fibers are oriented, it tends to bring it down as well. Okay, so it goes from regular position to down. Okay, now Look at what that does here. You know, that doesn't give my finger much room to go through. Imagine what that does to your tendons, right? And so that's why when you come and see me, or someone asks you to put your arm like this and then go up, and then you're like, ooh, can't do that. That's because of that right there. It's because the tendons in here are getting squished, and then when you put your arm like this, and you go up, you're literally shearing the tendons in there. Okay. So anyway, that is the essence of what shoulder impingement is. Now, how this happens, like I mentioned before, is a lot of times of what you're doing for long periods of time, and you're not working the other way around. So that's going to be part of, that's kind of a good segue. So the next part of this whole, like the fix it part, is to just do the opposite. It sounds funny, but it's quite intuitive, right? If you understand the mechanism of the syndrome, you can actually understand like how to undo it, right? And so in your daily life, I actually had someone come to me the other day with this. They can't really get away from the action that they're doing during the day because that's just kind of how their job is. It's what they do. And so I offered this idea that, yeah, you have to do this all the time. So when you're at home, when you're cleaning, when you're cooking, like I mentioned before, you do it the opposite. Okay, so instead of going this way and making it worse, and you're just cranking and cranking and cranking it, what you want to do is go the opposite way. So just clockwise, I guess you can say. And so in the beginning, yeah, it's gonna hurt. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, because your muscles aren't used to it. They're used to being stretched out. Okay, and that's essentially what is the issue, right? Another part of the issue is in the back, right in here. Why this part is so tender and inflamed is because these guys are trying their hardest to bring your arm back this way. Okay, but it can't. They can't because they're so much smaller than the subscapularis muscle in here, and the pectoralis muscle. So I'll have to draw that for next time. But you guys kind of get the idea. So the well, that's one fix. If you can't get out of doing that motion during the day, don't worry about it. Just do the opposite at home or when you can, and maybe even at the gym too. Focus on external rotation. And so what you can do, another good segue, thank you, is you can put this on a knob or a hook or something like that. And what you're going to do is put a piece of paper or a towel, something like that, under here, under your arm right in here, and make yourself hold it. And so then you're going to get the band, and you're going to do external rotation as far as you can. Okay, as far as you can. And I don't want it to go out like this. That's why the piece of paper, that towel or something like that is there, because if you let it go and then it falls, then that means you're not doing it right, right? So anyway, with that in there, kind of, hook that in there, get that tension right. That don't make it so easy that you're, straining yourself. Get the right slack, and then just external rotation. And I really want you to feel this right in here, these muscles working. Okay, these right in here, which is these. Okay, these right in here. You might even feel your triceps try to get in the mix too. That's just because you're not used to this motion anymore. Okay, you're so used to, your body has this muscle memory of going this way, this way, this way for so long that it won't. It doesn't. It needs a little bit more of a poke. It needs a little friendly reminder. This is how to do it. Now, I know I didn't really talk too much about this muscle up in here, supraspinatus. This muscle is important in about like 10 to 15 degrees of motion. Actually, maybe it's more like 5 to 10, but anyway, I'm not get into that. So this right in here, it helps your arm get to about this far, and then that's when your traps and other muscles start to get involved. But this muscle, that's why this gets involved, or this is why it's kind of tender up in here, is because the tendon is involved when these muscles act up. Okay, so that's why I wanted to mention that. So this is not, you're not crazy or anything. That is definitely tender sometimes. On the daily at the gym, if you wanted to really work on this, what I want you to do is, I'm going to put this down a little bit lower so you can see, because I'm a little bit short. What I want you to do is get a stretchy band like this. Okay, it doesn't have to be super strong. And you're going to hook them in like this. Okay, shoulder width apart. I want you to do a posture reset to make sure that you're not going to shear your tendons more. Okay, so you're going to go up, back, and you see how much mine rounded out like that, so that's good. And then just let them drop like this. Okay. Now with your band, what you're going to do is spread them out like this, and you can see my shoulder blades. They're staying in one spot, but I am able to move. You can see my muscles like kind of moving around, right? And so that's essentially what I would like everyone to be doing to fix this. Again, you can that's just like a 2-for-1 type of deal. You can really isolate your arm and really just focus on one at a time. If this is not, feasible for you, or for whatever reason you don't feel comfortable with it, or it hurts, maybe you're just not used to the tension, you're not ready for it yet. So ease off the tension, and then maybe just do one at a time. So you can put one end, tie it around the doorknob, or tie it around, something, a handle, and then remember to put that something right here in between your arm and your side, so that it doesn't, that way you don't cheat, essentially, right? Because, I mean, you can cheat if you want to, but there's really no point, because then you're not really going to be focused on healing the actual syndrome. So, anyway, that, my friends, is pretty much what shoulder impingement is. Depending on how long you've had it, depending on what kind of work you do, what kind of exercises you do, this could actually can take a while for your and we use the word syndrome because it's a condition that kind of come and go, because it depends on the muscle tension. If you notice, all of this is muscle related, and so a lot of times patients come in and they say, hey, like my shoulder hurts, my wrist hurts, my elbow. Sometimes I get some throbbing pain right in here, and that is because of pain referrals, the trigger point referrals. Okay, and so when these muscles in here get tight, they get tight just in that area, if you will. Okay, and so when that area gets tight, it actually puts tension on the rest of your body in a way that has recognized patterns, and those are called trigger point referral patterns. So when people say I have wrist pain, when people say I have pain right here, when people say I have, certain pains, I know exactly what muscle to look at, which is probably why, I'm just kind of poking around whenever you're in my office, because I just want to see which muscle is it. I want to see the ring dinger. So, that's kind of how you can see if that is, if this is something that you have. So again, this is a syndrome. This is by no means a long-term disability or anything like that. I mean, I have seen shoulder impingement to the point where it's almost a disability, because the person just let it go for so long. They either iced their shoulder for so long that they just kind of forgot how bad it was and just kept going. We see a lot of that with like plumbers, roofers, people who are in the working with their hands industry, anything like that. You can even see that with nail techs, hairdressers, salon people, like the people who do the facials, the estheticians, I hope I said that correctly. The people who do your facials and, things like that. I'm not good at those names, but you get what I'm saying. And so, it's because everyone's turning into a praying mantis, right? Like everyone's doing something like this, whether it be on your phone or on your work, dental hygienists, hairdressing, ladies and guys, even when you're doing your hair, you're doing hair like this. Like I said, dental hygienists, bartenders. A lot of bartenders have issues with their shoulders and low back, because you're standing all day, right? Same thing, machinists, people who work in manufacturing. If you have like this and kind of lean forward a little bit, like that puts a lot of strain on you. right? Because you're leaning forward. You have to put yourself at this like balanced tension, and it really puts a strain on you having to do that for a long period of time. So that's actually why I call all my patients athletes, because you are an athlete. It's just a matter of in what field you're doing your work. And so just because you're not on TV doesn't mean you're not an athlete. And so you kind of have to as you're an athlete. And so when you're sitting for a long period of time, you have to have that correct posture, because if you're not, then you can do the same thing, right? When you're sitting and you're typing, if you don't have the correct posture, your shoulder, this is how you develop shoulder impingement, right? You're just like, I'm not even doing anything, doctor. I'm just going to work, doing my work, and I'm going home. I'm not sure what I'm doing. It's because it's a lot over a long period of time that you've been doing this. And so because you haven't been correcting that posture, allowing these muscles to work, they've actually been elongating this whole time, creating that laxity. And then meantime, that muscle in here, that subscapularis muscle, it starts to crank and crank and crank. And once that cranks and cranks and cranks, your muscles just get really comfortable with it, right? And so your arm is just like, okay, I guess that's what we're doing. And then that's when you have the wrist pain and the elbow pain and all that kind of stuff. So I hope this was, very helpful for you guys. If you do have any questions, please comment and or uh, message me if you can. I'm going to try and post this on Instagram too. So if you find this on Instagram, you can go ahead and direct message me there, and then I can help you with I don't know, with any questions you have. All right, guys, have a good one. Bye.